Okay, hello everybody. So this is Arry. Arry is a student in our current program at GrantMe, and Arry will be going to UBC next year, right? Yes.
Yep.
And so Arry is a very special student because he has won a total of $110,000. Yes, you heard that right, $110,000 in scholarships so far this year, and we're not even all the way through the year, and you're still interviewing for other scholarships and applying to others, and so we're not even all the way through the year, but that's where Ari's at right now, which is pretty amazing. So thanks for joining us, Arry, today. Of course. And so we're going to talk a little bit about just your own journey, really, with scholarships and like what that's been like for you, and what that's been like through our program specifically. So the first thing I want to ask you is, I just kind of want to go back to like where you were at with not just the scholarship process, but also the university application process, like at the beginning of the year prior to GrantMe. So like in, let's say, when did you join? Was it September or October?
It was earlier. It was after the deadline for the Loran. I want to say October.
October. Okay, October. So he joined roughly in October. So what was that process looking like for you before then?
It was looking terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying to go through the process. I was somebody that wanted to fund my own post-secondary education through scholarships to bursaries, whatever that needed to be. And going in with that goal and not really knowing how to do it, it's always really, really terrifying. So yeah, before GrantMe, it was the hardest part is finding out the right scholarships and knowing how to make your experiences, valuable to those people that are going to be reading them. So GrantMe has been fantastic for that. But I was a little scared and honestly a little lost because I knew what I wanted to do, but I wasn't sure how I could do it.
Totally. Okay, that probably is very relatable for most students that are in grade 12, and probably some students right now that are in grade 12, even though it's closer to the end of the year, because they're still trying to figure that out. So I'm sure that's probably relatable. And I'm sure even for younger students in grade 10 and 11 that are really trying to think about like, what are my next steps and like, what should I be doing right now in order to have that success in grade 12. So that totally makes sense. Awesome. Okay. And then where are you at with the process now? And like, what did it take to get there? Because like, obviously you've won $110,000 in scholarships so far, which is pretty crazy. And if I'm giving, parents and students a little bit of context, like Arry is a very good student, and also his involvement, like we talk about initiative a lot in our program. Initiative is really a key part of having success with scholarships, and you take initiative like literally in every area of your life, which is great. But like, what was the actual process of like the applications for you? Because you really did have, like, going into grade 12, you already had the resume, right? And you were already like working on these amazing initiatives that are like having a huge impact on our, in our community. But like, what was that application process like for you? And like, what type of work did it require to really go through that process to get to $110,000?
For me, like you said, I have a fair few initiatives. I've always been very involved in my life in music, sports, community work, business projects, like all those things are things I've been doing my entire life. So for me, I was actually in a position where I had too many things and I didn't know what it was that I had to pinpoint, like my strengths. So I remember from my applications, but then I didn't even make the shortlist for the Loran. I didn't even make the shortlist, and I wasn't part of GrantMe then because I didn't know how to highlight my best experiences and like kind of really make them sound the way they like, make them valuable, make them really worth what they truly are. Because I remember when I would submit my essays to you guys, I would write two. Like I would write one and I'd switch with a different initiative and be like, I don't know which one sounds good. And then I'd list other ones at the bottom and be like, pick whichever ones you guys think I should include. And then we'd go from there, because it's really difficult to pinpoint what's really most valuable, especially if you've been, have a variety of things.
Right. Yeah. I can actually remember that too. Like now that you said it, I remember reading and you're like, yeah, there's this, and then there's this, and there's this. And it's like, what do I say? What do I do? And you're writing, like, I would say like you were already a really good writer, but like your writing, I would say, like improved throughout the year. And like definitely for you, it was like narrowing your focus. So like figuring out like when you only have 600 words, like for example, like you actually did in TV, you have 600 words. How are you like best going to highlight, the 2 or 3 key things that are really going to show who you are and your key attributes and like the impact that you've actually had in the community, which is very challenging because it doesn't, whether you have like few initiatives or you have like a lot of initiatives, it doesn't make it like easier one way or the other, because even if you have a lot to talk about, it's like still very hard to narrow your focus in that way. And so that makes sense. And like in terms of the work required, like the dedication, like what would you say about that? Like I know you had a pretty clear goal in mind of like what you wanted to achieve this year. And so like what was that goal, and like what work was required to like actually do that?
I knew going in my school, we do these grad transition presentations. So I went in and my goal was to like maintain a 95 plus average and to get a full ride scholarships. That was my goal, to fund my own education, because you have to list out our goals for the year. So going in, I knew what I wanted to do. But honestly, I'm not sure it would have exactly been possible, because I knew that I had what I needed in terms of experience to get it done. But those were my goals, and going in, it was terrifying. Like I know that I won the Centennial from UBC. UBC offered me a scholarship, a lot of money, like $40,000, and I wasn't gonna apply to that one because like I knew it was up my alley. But I think the biggest thing when you do these applications is motivation. Man, you've got school, you're in your final year, you have to keep up your grades because you want to go to university, but at the same time you want to win money. It's so hard to motivate yourself to be like, hey, I'm gonna sit down and write 1,500 words and then knock out 40 math questions. It's like it's difficult to do that. So I remember doing my UBC application, and I was doing that, and I sent it into you guys a bunch of times, and you guys were destroying it. Like they're like changing everything, and I'm like, oh, like it was making me like, I was like, okay, I can do this. But I finished my application, I got it in, and then they extended the deadline for the Centennial by a day or two. And then you just emailed me and you said, it was like 6 p.m. and you just said like, hey, I really think you should apply to this. Get it done and then send it to us tomorrow morning. It's a 1,500 word application. It's like 6 p.m. I just did my UBC application. And had you not emailed me and said, hey, this is right up your alley, you need to do it, I probably wouldn't have done it. And I sat there and I was like I can't let myself down. I can't let these people down. So I sat there and I did the application. We edited it, I submitted it, and I ended up winning. So like that just, it wouldn't have happened. I know it wouldn't have happened. Like I wouldn't have done that.
I didn't even know that. Like what you're telling me right now is like news to me, because I didn't even, I know that I emailed it to you, but like I didn't really realize like you were like, no, I'm not gonna apply. Well, I did email you, I guess, and I said like you need to do this.
I knew I needed to do it. And I was at my friend's house. I was helping him edit his application. I'm sitting there and I'm so tired because I'm doing his and I'm doing my own. And he's my roommate now at UBC next year. So we're like working on it together. And I'm so tired because I just finished mine and his. And I was like, maybe I'll do it. But then sometimes, like as like a person, you can lie to yourself and be like, yeah, well, I didn't have enough time, and I couldn't have done it, but I tried my best. So I felt like it was a situation where I was gonna like kind of lie to myself and be like, oh, it's okay, you couldn't have done it, it's fine. But then when you emailed me, I'm like, oh, I have to do it now. And I did it, and it worked, right? So
that's so, that's crazy.
So important. It's so difficult. Like when the motivation was so like powerful from you guys that I at one point I skipped school to do applications. I am I was
kind of that. We don't encourage.
I know, don't encourage, like don't, for like I remember I skipped, like I went to my first 2 classes, and then I like talked to my teacher. I'm like, hey, like I was like cutting kind of, and I'm like I got this big application, it's due in like a few days, and then I just left, and then I was doing applications instead of the schooling, because it's like, yeah, your grades are important, and I can learn grades, but the deadlines, once they're gone, they're gone. It's like the motivation is a big thing. And every time I missed the deadline, and I put a little sad face on my scholarship sheet, and man, I had like 4 or 5 of missed deadlines, and it just made me so sad. I'm like, they're gonna be reading this and be like, oh, I missed another deadline. So yeah, like that, the motivation is a huge factor. And I think for everyone, it's very difficult to convince yourself to write 1,000 words essays, despite the possibility, because it's not guaranteed. It's not guaranteed.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think that some people, and we've talked to like a few students about this in these interviews, like a lot of them are like, yeah, it's like until you win something, like you have to be a certain type of person to say like, I'm going to stick with this, because like the reality is like a lot of these, these applications and the deadlines, like they might happen earlier on, but like you actually finding out whether or not you won doesn't happen until later in the year, right? And you're waiting, and it's a waiting game, and like it takes something to say I'm going to keep going for the next like 4 months, even when I'm not hearing anything, and then wait till the end of the year and then like win $110,000 in scholarship for like whatever happens. Yeah.
Absolutely terrifying, because I'm the kind of person that I make my goals vocal. Like I'm vocal with
Mm.
my goals of what I want to do. So I'm out here and like we have study blocks, right? And kids run off. It's your grade 12 year. They go out, get food, and I'm sitting there and I'm writing my applications in the band room. I'm locking myself in the band practice room and I'm typing out my application. Like everyone knows that like, okay, like this guy's like just doing this work again. He's not going out. And I'm making it clear. I'm like, yeah, I'm doing scholarships. And like all I did was scholarships for like 5 months of the school year. Come January, and like you said, you don't find out till June. So here I've applied
Yeah.
for so many. I haven't won a single one. So it's
Yeah.
like okay, I put in hours of work, and my friends are asking me like, how are the scholarships going? And I'm like, I don't know, I haven't won a single one. And then it really just comes down to the end. Like as long as you put the work in and you've done it correctly, the results will happen. Apparently.
Apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's true. That story, I'm like still smiling about that story. You told me like I was not gonna apply, I was not gonna apply. That's so funny that the email is like saying you need to apply. I was like, you're like, okay, I guess I have to do this because Madison's gonna be standing there the next day if it's not done. But yeah, that's like literally everything you're saying is exactly true. And I think that's like the attitude that students need to have going into it, and they really need to focus on maintaining that. And I think every single like interview that we've done like this, you guys have all said the same thing. Like you have to stay motivated, you have to be motivated, and like that's how you create results. So yeah, and you definitely are that, right? Like that's what you are.
And if
So
I can add one thing, it's like I'm about halfway through the application process. Like halfway, like how about like halfway through the year, I was like, okay, like what am I doing? What's the point? And then I realized even if I don't win, there's a greater benefit to being able to sit down and force yourself to do something that's very difficult and annoying and tough. It's really good. It's a really good skill to have, to just sit down and be like,
yeah,
okay, I don't want to do this, but man, I gotta do it. And then to write that out, that's gonna bode so well for your future. And that was my mindset. I'm like, every day I missed like a party or a hangout or a social thing, and I'm out here and I'm doing it. I'm developing a skill, and that skill is getting things done. And a lot of people don't have that. It's
yes,
really important.
yes. I love that, because 100%. And we talk to students all the time, and we're like, okay, like if you're not going to commit to like figuring out your financial future right now, how are you going to commit to like the English class essay that you're going to have to do in your first year of university when you
Yeah,
hate English, right?
yeah,
And like that's the reality of school. And then life doesn't change. Like once you get out of school and you go into a job and you have a career,
easy.
like you don't, yeah, exactly. Like you don't come to work every day and say like, I love every single part of it. I mean, I love almost every single part of it, but like I don't love like taxes, or like I don't love like spreadsheets. Like I like interacting with people, right? But I still like, you still show up, and like you have to be able to commit to that. So I love what you're saying about like learning the skill of like, taking time out to do things that you don't want to do and committing to it and saying like, I'm going to do this anyways, and there's like a greater benefit to that beyond like just the results of scholarships. That's huge.
Yeah.
Huge. Yeah,
And
I totally agree.
I got the third best mark in my school at the provincial because I had been sitting at home writing essays for months. Like I did
Yeah,
really well in the provincial. Like
you're
so,
not the
like
first person to say that to us. So many
yeah,
students have emailed us being like, my English
yeah, it's like you.
hurt.
It does. It's not even funny because it's like you don't even know you're working on this skill until you're done, and you're like, hey, I'm actually good at this now. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, totally. And because like self-reflection also is not something, like it's not what you're doing in like a traditional English class, like that type of writing, right? The style of writing where you're constantly thinking about your own achievements and like reflecting on your own experiences. And so a lot of students like just have never done that. And for them it's new and it's hard. And but it's, if you master that skill, like that's business writing, right? So any job you go into, it's going to be applicable 100%, right? And so it's definitely like a skill worth learning. Okay, this was super informative for students. I think they're going to get so much value from you sharing your experience with it. And then I think the last thing is, and I think you've touched on this a whole bunch, but how has the program helped you? Or like if there's like one or two things that you think you got, from the program, what would those be?
Money?
Yeah.
No,
Money.
but I mean, it's really put me in a position where I've realized that financially I do have the ability to control my future. As someone where I've kind of coming into my senior year, I knew where I wanted to be, what I wanted to do. But the financial aspect of it is always difficult, especially if you're a kid and you don't really know how it all works and when it comes out. Because like a year at UBC, if you want to stay there, that's like 20 grand a year. Realistically, that comes out to be like 20,000 a year, and like that's a lot of money. So to understand at this age that I can go out and if I can deal with my finances myself and take responsibility for them, I think that's so important. Like I know that funding my education was important. I worked hard and I was able to get it done. And now I'm going to understand the benefit of having a level of financial freedom when I'm at school and being able to use that.
Yeah,
so I think
absolutely.
It's just, thank you so much. Honestly, thank you. Like,
oh, that's so nice.
Important.
I appreciate that.
Honestly, changed my future. Changed my future, my career path, 100%.
Oh my gosh, that's so nice. But you guys, like, that's the thing, and that's why we're like doing these interviews, because like for us, it's bigger than scholarships, like truly, right? Like this program wasn't, and that's what, people get excited about scholarships, people get excited about money. You just said it, but like it's bigger than that, because it's about having choice. It's about like being able to make choices, not decisions, right? Like not decisions based on like your financial circumstance or, your parents or your own situation, like your family situation. It's not about that. It's about having choice, right? And being able to choose to have financial freedom and being able to choose where you want to go to school and being able to choose what, career you want to pursue in the summer, because like you have a financial position to be able to do that. And it's a lot bigger than scholarships. And so like you are like, you literally are living that, right? And like you are the student. This is what we want for every student. And so like for us, it's just so rewarding to be able to see like you guys having success, but like also see that you guys see that it's bigger than that. Like it's bigger than the money. It really is. And like now you get to really have a say in like how is the next 5 years going to go for me. Yeah. And the crazy thing is, and keep going with this process, like with scholarships, with, job applications and like all of that stuff, and like really just be able to dictate like how does the next 5 years go for me. And so we feel very fortunate, like on our side, to be able to work with students like you, which you already know, I'm sure. But it's really cool. It's really cool to hear, your experience and your success, because I hope and I think it's very motivating for other students to really get a sense of like what that looks like and what it takes.
Yeah, I mean, I just know that if I can pull it off, then anyone can do it. That's the most important part. Like I'm just a kid, and like it's crazy to have like the opportunity that I do now to be able to go to school where I want to go, and like if I can do it, then anyone can do it. You just have to have the right initiatives and know how to execute on them. That's it.
Yeah, really, really powerful, because I think people are going to look at this and say, okay, I think I can do this. Like I can actually do it.
Whoever's watching this, you can do it.
I love that. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Arry, for sharing and taking the time to do this. I really appreciate it. I think students and parents are going to get like a lot of value from this. So I really appreciate you sharing. We feel lucky to have you and to know you. And so, I really appreciate your time.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thanks.